to episode 3 of the My Midland podcast. My name is Erin. I'm the Public Information Officer for the City of Midland. Today I am joined by Councilwoman Lori Blong.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are so excited you're here. Yes. You're our first female guest.
Wonderful.
So woo-woo! Today we're going to talk about what your time has been like on council. It's been a year and a half, which seems crazy because it has flown by.
But very quickly.
What have been your favorite parts about it so far?
I have really enjoyed getting to work with the team of people who are on council with me. Have surprisingly built great relationships with the 6 other councilmen, and then the senior staff really have been some of my favorite people to get to know and to work with, and have gained such a strong respect for their work ethic and for the wonderful things that they do for Midland. I think they are the unthanked heroes of a lot of things that happen around here. So.
And the majority of your time on council was during a pandemic.
Yes.
What was that like navigating that as a new council member?
It definitely was a shock, to have been sworn in January, and then in March it felt like the world sort of fell apart. And so I think that some of the learning curve of the normal council, where you have the roads and infrastructure and water and all of the different things that our city council is responsible for, we had those responsibilities with the COVID responsibilities layered on top. And so, there were some late nights and some early mornings and some nights where I didn't sleep, and I was really worried and stressed early on. But I think it actually provided us a little bit of a trial by fire, those of us that were new on council, to have to learn things quickly and to get up to speed quickly. And so it was not all bad, but it was difficult. It was definitely a difficult season.
And what made you want to run for council in the first place?
I'll be honest, in 2018, my husband and I took a retreat in December and just were planning for the next few years and what was important for our family and our priorities for our business and for our family. And one of the things that I really talked to him about was being so frustrated with certain things about Midland, and that we either had to get deeply involved or I was going to have to go do something else. I couldn't stay here and just gripe about the things that I was frustrated about. And so I started journaling and writing a few articles about the things that I saw in Midland that I saw solutions for. So not just the things that I was frustrated about, but how would I see solutions for those? And they were well received in the MRT and among some other people in the community that I was working with. And so over that, I would guess it was the first semester of 2019, the first 6 months of 2019, really began to dig into Priority Midland, to several other city boards, and looking into how can I be part of a solution rather than just a griper. And so little did I know by August of that same year, it was really just a few months of having that framework in my own mental space. By August of that same year, I was being asked to run for city council. And
then the campaign took off.
I announced, I went to the city hall and got my paperwork and announced, I think on the last possible day. So it was not
do I really want to do this?
Yeah, it was not something that I had dreamed about and planned for my whole childhood and early adulthood. It was something that really I grew into and realized I need to step forward in this.
And now that you're representing District 4, what is that like being the voice for that large of a district?
I think that the range of the district is really the thing that I've had to learn, because it is geographically a large district in our community, but it also encompasses the airport and this big kind of window pane area that's being developed. There's so much development that's happening in my district, and so there's a range of people, of Midlanders from different socioeconomic levels and different ethnic backgrounds. There's just really a cross section of what Midland looks like all in my district, and so that's been a great thing. But there's different voices and there's different priorities for people in different parts of my district. They don't necessarily consistently want or need the same things, and so making sure that you're listening to a broad cross section is important to me.
And before we touch on what's happening in District 4, talk to us a little bit about what you do in your day job, so to speak.
Yeah, so in 2013, my husband and I started a company, Octane Energy, and so we have, for the past 8 years, been involved in the oil and gas space, and we had the same big hit when oil went negative and the downturn of the last year. And so we've ridden that same roller coaster that so many other Midlanders have ridden with oil and gas. But we've kind of turned a corner. We've picked up a new asset. We purchased a new oil and gas asset in May. And so we're transitioning, getting all of that stuff under our belt and ready to move forward into that development of that asset.
Do you feel like being a business owner has helped you on council?
I do. And I will also say props to my husband. He really has been a mentor of sorts through business ownership and leadership in our community, and then stepping into this city role. I remember one time we were sitting in Cancun Grill and a group of men came over to our table and they were talking to us, and he stood up to talk to them, and I just sat there in my chair. And after they left, he said, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to stand up and shake their hands. And it was a pivotal moment for me to realize, no, I don't have to sit here in my chair with my head bowed while he handles these things. I can have a seat at the table too, but I have to conduct myself accordingly. And so that has been really since 2008 when we started 2013 when we started our company to today. That's been a journey of figuring out what that looks like.
And now you literally do have a seat at the table.
I do have a seat at the table. I do. And it's kind of come quickly. And really, 2013 to today is not very much time. And so it's been a steep learning curve and a big transition, but it's been good.
And let's talk about District 4. What are some of the projects that you're most excited about?
Well, I'm very, very excited to see some development of neighborhoods and of businesses that are coming in there. I think we've seen around the sports complex, there have been several successful restaurants and other businesses that have come into that area and are starting to build their own little community feel in that area. But I also am very excited. There's going to be an extension of the trail system from Beale Park. That's already in the works with city development, and so they're going to be extending a pathway that'll be, if you take it round trip, it's over 3 miles of paved pathway that you could take. You could take your family and your stroller and walk through there and enjoy a path through Midland. It starts in Beale Park and it's going to end at Lancaster Park. So it's this nice little track that I think will be well used by certain parts of Midland. There's also going to be access for bicycles on that pathway. And so I think that's a thing that Midlanders have said for years that we want is more outdoor amenities that connect our city and allow us to use our spaces for family opportunities, for fitness, and for just a better quality of place. So I'm excited about that one.
And those are 2 projects coming up. Are there any other projects or goals that you have in mind through the rest of your term?
I would say a project that you may have talked about on here already is the 191 and Loop 250 redevelopment. TxDOT has plans over the next 18 months to 2 years to redo the interchanges at 191 and 250, and so the on-ramps and the off-ramps will be reworked to help alleviate some of the traffic backup that we get there at certain times of the day. And so it's going to be painful, actually. For the rest of my term, it's all going to be torn up. But I think it's going to produce an outcome for Midland that we really need to be able to say we've benefited the community by handling traffic in this way, and we've worked with TxDOT to get that done. So that's going to be a really great project. As far as a goal of mine for the rest of my term, I really want to see us look seriously at our full park system as a city, not just in District 4. I think that we need to see this as a holistic solution that we need to help find for our city. We need to be doing a better job with turf management and irrigation in our parks. We have so many outdoor sports opportunities in Midland, and we have such a young community of families and children who are playing those sports, and we need to upgrade all of those facilities. And so whether that's parks in my neighborhood or in my area or parks in a different part of Midland, all of those things need to be redone. Most of the older parks in our community, their irrigation was last touched in the 70s. And so we have gone around and changed sprinkler heads and tried to tweak things, but as far as actually overhauling a park's irrigation system, 1970 something was the last time that was done in some of these parks. And so then we wonder why we had the lack of quality of turf in some of these areas.
And it's been 50 years.
Yeah, and so it's time. And we have a pilot program in the works to to change that for, it'll be Beale Park, Butler Park, Winland Park, and Reyes Mashburn Elms. Those 4 parks are going to be our pilot program to redo part of those grass fields so that we can have a better system for our kids. So those are going to be really important. We've already seen all the playscapes have been redone. That was put in place by a previous council. I can't take credit for that, but I'm really reaping the benefit of it with my own family and kids. And so I just think we've started down a pathway of doing things the right way. The road bond is going well. We have some things in the works for parks. I really see some exciting things for Midland in the works. We're just going to have to stay the course and keep pushing forward on those.
And what is it like seeing this development and seeing even your district go, but the entire city as a whole, watching that from being in a council seat? Yeah. What is it like to be in that spot during this time?
It's really interesting. I was born here, so I grew up here my whole childhood and adolescence, and to see things that I remember as a dirt field are now a sports complex, or really, I mean, the Loop was developed while I was growing up, and so all of that was just the desert. And so to go from that, where we've grown so much from less than 100,000 people to now we're thinking there's 150,000 people in our community, is really just such a vast expansion, and we've got to keep up with that growth. We've got to be attracting businesses and development here, and we've got to keep up with the ones that we've already got. We've got to take care of the community and the businesses and infrastructure that we have.
And we hear that a lot about quality of place in Midland. Do you think that's probably one of the top, if not the top priorities for the entire council? I
think it is. I think it's the thing that we can most easily agree on.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but yes, I do believe that we all recognize, so many of us are young, we all have young families and have ties here to look and see what it is to have kids in this community and to have businesses and to be hiring people, trying to attract great talent to Midland for some of our businesses. It matters that we have a city that people want to be in. And if we're going to have a city that people want to be in, then we have to do the work necessary to keep them here. And so, some of those are happening through private industry like Green Acres, or like, bowling alleys and other things for kids to do. We can elevate those things, and some of those things are in process. So some of them need to be private industry, but some of that needs to be done by taxpayer dollars and our city staff stepping up to the plate and making this the best place that we can make it. We have a great climate. It's hot. Don't ask us this week. But at least
not humid.
But it's not humid, and it's pleasant to be outside, especially in the evenings most of the year. And so if we can get some of these outdoor spaces elevated to the place that they ought to be, then we've created an outdoor community where we have relationships in our neighborhoods, and we have people out and about and interacting with each other and elevating fitness and wellness for our community.
Yes.
It really can only benefit us.
Before we move into the fun fact questions,
is
there anything else that you would like the citizens to know?
I think the main thing that I want to say as often as I can is that our city staff sometimes gets a bad rap, and I think that that's been false for a long time. We've got some of the hardest working and most professional people in their roles, and so if we resource them well and we give them the guidance and the leadership and then the freedom to do their job well, I believe that we've got a great staff that can do that. So that's my main flag to carry.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
And then the fun facts, we ask them to all of our guests.
Okay.
Our first one is, what is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie is probably The Proposal.
Oh my God, that's mine too.
And I have to watch it, so I don't really like scary movies or psychological kind of stuff. So if we ever watch something like that, I'll look at Jared, my husband, and say, now we're going to have to watch The Proposal afterwards so that I can sleep.
It's never not good.
It is. It's perfect.
And the parts like after the credits at the ending are some of the funniest
They
parts
are.
of the movie.
Yes.
They get me every time.
That's right.
What's your favorite place to eat in Midland?
My favorite place to eat in Midland is Murray's. It really is. And I don't say that just because the Dufford family is now owning it. I have eaten at Murray's my whole life, and you cannot beat a crab melt sandwich. It's the very best thing.
I haven't tried that one yet.
You have to have
and
a crab melt.
It was started by Charlotte
Hotchkiss.
Yeah.
Yes. Charlotte and Bart are some of my favorite people in Midland, and Murray's is definitely my favorite restaurant.
They're just the sweetest. Your favorite color?
It changes. Red, probably red.
Right now?
Yeah.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
One superpower. Probably, I don't know. That's a hard one. That's not a thing I think about.
For me, it's to teleport. So
Okay.
I could be with my family whenever I wanted.
Yes, teleporting. Some sort of omniscience where I could know all things in all the places at all the times. It was really,
wow.
but I don't know. Is that a superpower?
That's like a catch-22.
That's I want to be there for all the things. I have major FOMO.
Oh yeah.
Major FOMO. So if I could just be in all the places, then that would be
So you
great.
just need to be 10 lorries.
That's right. That's right.
Are you a dog or a cat person?
Totally a dog person. I don't really know the point of cats.
We
And I'm
haven't
gonna
had
get
one
angry
person
mail
say
about
cats
that,
yet.
but I'm totally a dog person. We have a Weimaraner, and he's lovely and wonderful. So,
Your go-to karaoke song?
I'm not a karaoke person. I sang in choir in high school and college. So
Really?
I'm not like a fun karaoke person. I'm a choir person. I'm a first soprano.
It's legit when you get up there.
So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I definitely a Texas country and a 90s country.
Okay. Maybe
Alan
Friends
Jackson.
in Low Places?
Yeah, Alan Jackson, Chattahoochee, those kinds. I'm really. That's
Those
my
would get the crowd
My
going.
favorite genre for sure.
Okay. Your favorite TV show?
I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do love Madam Secretary. I think it is I've watched every single episode multiple times.
Oh, so definitely a favorite.
Yeah.
Your favorite sports team? Are you a sports girl?
I'm not a sports girl. I see I'm not getting any of your questions. Whatever my kids are playing is my favorite thing to watch at that point. My kids are in all the things, so definitely their sports are my favorite.
That's perfect. Your favorite type of music? You kind of already answered it.
Definitely country.
And your last one. If you could have any meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I love fresh corn. My parents grew up in the Panhandle, and so I love fresh corn. And I love a really good steak. So
That's a good
probably that.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
And now we're going to move into the citizen questions.
Okay.
The first one is, can you give us an update on the mountain bike park?
Yes, so this is Harris Field. I think there's a portion of our community that doesn't even know it exists. It's very cool. Harris Field is down by the fire training facility, and there's this huge water feature that's kind of the terminus point for all of our draw system in Midland. And so all the runoff and all the rain collects there, and it's almost always got water in it. And then they've built these berms and bike trails all around it, back around these trees, but then also in the open field to the west of it. So it's very cool. They're partway through development of that.
Wow.
And I would encourage Midlanders to get on the Permian Basin Bicycling Association website and register. They have a really great mailing list. They're very active with their membership group, and so they'll give you updates. And one of the things that they've really done well, I think, is inviting the community to participate in the cleanup of the trails and then in the development of the trails. So they'll have volunteer days where you can take your family out there and do some work on those trails so that you can enjoy them as they get developed. So it's going really, really well. It's been very well received, and it's cost the taxpayer $0 because the contract is allowing the Permian Basin Bicycling Association to manage all of that development and pay for it.
And that's just one more thing, helping with the quality of
That's
life.
right. Yeah, it's very fun.
The next one is, with most of your time being on council during a pandemic, what do you think was your biggest challenge?
I think knowing the right thing to do. I'm a limited government girl, and so for the most part, I wanted us to back away and say, governance does not need to be the solution for a medical problem in our community. And I think that was an oversimplification for a lot of people who were really scared. They wanted government leadership to step in more assertively and put in mandates for certain things and put in, restrictions. And so knowing at each different turn, I remember early on in the pandemic, there was a lot of push from the state level and the federal level governance to have cities limit the occupancy in businesses. And I remember thinking, is that right? Like, should we even do that? And so the struggle of knowing what's the right decision to make in something that we've never faced before. They didn't hand me a playbook and say, this is how we do global
Pandemic
pandemics.
101.
We didn't get that. And so, you have an ideal of how government should work and how limited government should work, but then you're faced with an entirely new set of circumstances to say, how do I actually apply that? Take it from an ideal, from a philosophy, and put it into practice in this. And it was difficult. It didn't ever get not difficult, really, until we just saw our numbers as a community slack off. All of the vaccination went so quickly and so smoothly because of Val Sparks' work and the hospital's excellent execution of the vaccination clinics. But I don't feel like I ever got to a point where I was just adamantly confident of the right decision for each of those different decisions we had to make. It was difficult every single time.
Because you literally have no idea.
No. And I don't want to come across as the person who doesn't care about my neighbor's safety. I deeply care about my neighbor's safety, but I don't think that I, as a city council person, should be able to restrict or limit or demand things for you. I feel like that should be a medical conversation, not a local governance conversation. And so it was a tension that I walked in, and didn't make some friends in certain circles in Midland, and I know that. Because it was difficult. There were people that were really angry who thought that the decision should have gone one way or the other. And I think maybe one consolation that I take in that is I have people who are mad at me on both sides of the spectrum, which probably means that I landed somewhere that I needed to be. There are people who thought that I was way too in favor of restricting businesses early on, and there are people who are so angry at me that I didn't enact a mask mandate. And I did the best that I could, and I can live with the fact that I struggled through those decisions and came to the conclusions that I did.
And to piggyback a little bit off of that, seeing we're pretty much past it. I'm not going to say we're totally past it because I don't think we ever will be, but what is it like seeing the city get back to what we were like a year and a half ago?
I think it's really exciting, and not only are we moving past some of those COVID concerns as a community, but oil prices have rebounded so much, and so we're seeing busyness as a community because of just industry picking back up. But we're seeing people more excited to be out and about and doing things. And so, I think it's encouraging to see Midland coming back to life, and to have to sit through the light at Andrews Highway a couple times on my way home from work because people are back to work and
You're like, I don't mind
moving
it.
around. Yeah, I'm glad for this. I did not like the days when we drove around early in the pandemic and the streets were empty and everything felt dark and scary.
It was the eeriest feeling.
Yeah, so I prefer this. And I think that hopefully with oil prices headed in the direction that they are, and with rig activity and everything else that's happening in Midland, with new businesses that are not even related to oil and gas headed here, I just think there's some really exciting stuff happening. I'm glad that we're opening back up.
Do you have a new spot in Midland that's a new favorite for your family?
We have really enjoyed bike riding. My family already was into bike riding, but especially my kids are old enough now, and so they're way into mountain biking and just even road biking all over the place. So I would say our family took COVID and those restrictions and the pandemic and got outside and moved a lot. So
that was, for me, that was one of the coolest things about the pandemic is when you never saw that many kids playing outside or that many people going for walks, and it was like, holy cow, it's like a neighborhood again.
Yes, it is. And I think those are the things that I hope we retain. So there's some of the nonsense of the last year that I'm happy to leave behind. But I think some of the focus of bringing things back in tighter in a nuclear family and being home together more than you might have been before, and getting outside and being active together, all of those things, I think we need to carry that forward.
Definitely. And our next one is, as a female business owner and council member, what advice do you have for young women starting their career?
Probably what my husband said. If you want a seat at the table, you're going to have to stand up and shake their hand. And you have to be aware of the fact that everybody else has imposter syndrome also. Everyone else thinks that they're faking it and somebody's going to find them out. That's not unique to a young woman who's trying to find her way. I think that's a thing that most people carry in most roles of leadership, is some level of imposter syndrome. And so you have to step forward scared, and you have to put your hand out there and shake their hand and assert the thing that you believe is the right thing in that moment. And I also think learning to pivot and be aware of when you've messed up, but not let it cripple you. So, you're going to make people mad. You're going to make missteps. You're going to screw things up. And so step forward and try again the next time, but learn from the mistake that you made and do better next time. And so I think we live in a world that is difficult to do that, because there's records of all of your mistakes and all of your worlds on social media. And so sometimes it's hard to let that stuff go. But I think the people who are able to move forward in strength are the ones who can move forward with a clean slate, with lessons learned,
Yes.
but without the baggage of all of it.
The next question, what is your favorite thing about Midland?
My favorite thing about Midland,
Or it could be a few.
I think one of my favorite things about Midland is walking into a restaurant or a church service or a concert and knowing so many people. And I know that that's partly because I grew up here and because I've tried to stay involved and engaged, but I love being known and knowing people. And I know that if I was somewhere else, that would not be my experience. And so I think that's one of the really big ones. I also love the weather here. Now, I wish we need to figure out a way to have grass and trees and lakes and flowers without humidity. If we could work that out.
Where can we build the lake?
we need a lake, and we need all of these things. But I do love the dry heat and the temperate, moderate climate that we have for most of the year. So
That was our last citizen's question, but I'll ask you one more. If there are citizens out there that they are looking for a way to get involved and they just don't know how, or they don't know what to do, what would you suggest to them?
I really think Leadership Midland is a great thing to get engaged in through the chamber. They do a really wonderful job of outlining the different nonprofit boards and other things that you can do, but then they also highlight things that are happening with the city. And I think it gives you a better scope of what all Midland has going on. And so I did not personally go through the Leadership Midland program, but I know others who did, and I think that everyone I've ever talked to finds it to be really, really beneficial. So I think that would be the easiest way to just step forward and get and know. The other thing, though, and I really have learned this from Charla Hotchkiss, is to get to know your neighbors as you're walking in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Pay attention to the people over there and stop and talk and take a moment. I think if we could all engage in our actual nuclear neighborhood first and get to know and care about the people that are right around us, and then maybe grow into some Leadership Midland or some political, all of these other areas of leadership, they're all there, but we have to do a better job, myself included, of knowing our neighbors and caring about each other and caring well for one another. And Midland is poised for that. We have such friendly people here, but it takes intentionality to watch for people and to connect with them.
We need to bring block parties back.
We do. I had a block party on my street, and this may have to get cut out, but maybe it won't. I live on the same street as one of the city employees, and two of my neighbors and I decided that we were going to have a block party. And so we put out flyers, and our kids rode bikes and got everybody, and we got a bounce house, and we did this whole thing. And we didn't know that we should have blocked off the street, but we set up tables in the middle of the street and all this stuff. Like 6 months before I ran for political office. And he has made so much fun of me since then. That he's like, I knew you were going to get political after you had a block party. So, but we need block parties in our neighborhoods, and we need to get to know our neighbors.
Yeah, in my neighborhood during COVID, one of our neighbors right before Christmas brought all the neighbors on our street like a little goodie bag.
Yeah.
And now every time we see them, it's like, oh, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? We know a little bit about each other, and it just makes it a much more enjoyable place to live.
You gotta like those people that are bringing you something nice, or just stopping to talk to you and recognizing what, your new landscaping or whatever. Just point those things out to each other. It's
much easier if you need some flour, you know who to run to.
That is
not
right.
Like, I don't know any neighbors, now I have to go to HEB.
That's right.
But before we sign off, is there anything else that you would like to say?
I just am really excited about the good things that Midland has going on. We have challenges, and those challenges are not all solved, but we have really good direction and really encouraging people at the helm. And so I'm glad to be a Midlander.
Lori, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone, that concludes episode 3 of our My Midland podcast. We'll talk to you next time.